All right, what's going on? Peace, peace. This your girl Tiffany coming through live. Today topic will be about Michael B. Jordan controversy and the holiday celebration of Jouvert. So I'm gonna get into the concept and discussion about the Jouvert holiday, and I'm gonna also talk about the Michael B. Jordan. But I want to thank you guys that have been subscribed to my channel, and make sure you guys hit the notification bell whenever I come on, and also check out my contents, share my contents, and all that great stuff. But shout out to the people that's been tuning in, that's been watching. I appreciate that a lot. So, reason why I'm bringing up this topic because now it brings the conversation up about the whole, the Caribbean people and Black Americans argument. So, people have accused Michael B. Jordan of cultural appropriation because he has a rum called Jouvert Rum, but because of that whole controversy, he ended up changing the name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present this article, and then once I present the article, then I'm going to present the information, the history behind Jouvert. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's look at the article. All right, so right here in this article, it talks about the whole issue with Michael B. Jordan. It says, Michael B. Jordan vows to rename his rum brand after cultural appropriation backlash. I hear you. All right. Written by Hannah Yasharoff, and it's on usatoday.com. And this came out on June 23rd, 2021. So it says Michael B. Jordan has apologized and promised to rename his newly unveiled rum brand after online backlash over the name, which stems from the Caribbean culture. I just want to say on behalf of myself and my partners, our intention was never to offend or hurt a culture we love and respect and hope to celebrate and shine a positive light on. Jordan, 34, wrote in a statement on his Instagram story Monday. Last few days has been a lot of listening, a lot of learning, and engaging in countless community conversation. All right. So Jordan's girlfriend, Lori Harvey, recently publicly congratulated him for the launch of his rum brand Jouvert, after which online scrutiny picked up. The brand is named after the annual celebration of the Caribbean heritage that signals the beginning of Carnival and has ties to emancipation from slavery originating in Trinidad and Tobago. Critics argue Jordan should not be the face of the company without having any apparent connection to the Caribbean. Okay, so then it goes on to talk about Nicki Minaj. It said Nicki Minaj, who was born in Trinidad and Tobago, was among those who called on Jordan to reconsider, writing in an Instagram post Tuesday. She was sure he didn't intentionally do anything he thought Caribbean people would find offensive, but called on him to change the name and continue to flourish and prosper now that he was aware. Okay, so we hear you, Jordan added. I hear you and want to be clear that we are in the process of renaming. We sincerely apologize and look forward to introducing a brand we can all be proud of. All right, so that's the whole controversy, as you can see, regarding to Michael B. Jordan and the whole rum. Again, he said that it wasn't intention to offend anybody. I guess he thought that the name sounded good, so that's why he named the rum Jouvert. But I want to show you guys the picture of the festival. So this carnival normally take place. If it does take place in the United States, it will take place in New York, because New York City is very diverse of different African descended people of various backgrounds. We're talking about people from Trinidad, from the Bahamas, Haiti, Guyana, Barbados, Jamaica, especially. It is a very strong diversity in New York City. So That's where the holiday celebration is mainly taking place here in the United States in New York area. So here's the picture of what the carnival looks like. You can't really see the picture, but in this picture, these men are painting themselves up in like purple and stuff, and then they got the little fire going over here. So yeah, that's the big celebration. All right. So what is Jouvert exactly? Well, let's find out. All right, Jouvert. So Jouvert is a large street party held annually as part of Carnival in many Caribbean islands, primarily in the Lesser Antilles, and an area where Caribbean peoples have immigrated. Jouvert is likely a Gallicization of Jouvert or Jouvert in Standard French, the Antillean Creole French term meaning dawn or daybreak, as this is the time at which the festival is typically held. Now, here's the history behind it. So the history goes that Jouvert is celebrated in many countries throughout the Caribbean. Jouvert is also celebrated in many places outside the Caribbean as part of the carnival celebrations throughout the year, with the biggest celebration happening in places around the world with large Caribbean expat community. Traditionally, the celebration involves calypso, or is it calypso and soca bands and their followers dancing through the streets. The festival starts well before dawn and peaks a few hours after sunrise. Carnival was introduced to Trinidad by French colonizer in 1783, a time of slavery, banned from the masquerade balls of the French. The enslaved people would stage their own mini carnivals in their backyards, using their own rituals and folklore, but also imitating and sometimes mocking their masters' behavior at the masquerade balls. The origins of street parties associated with Jouvert coincide with the emancipation from slavery in 1838. Emancipation provided Africans with the opportunity not only to participate in carnival, but to embrace it as an expression of their newfound freedom. Some theorize that some Jouvert tradition are carried forward in remembrance of civil disturbance in Port of Spain, Trinidad, when the people smeared themselves with oil or paint to avoid being recognized. The tradition of Jouvert varied widely throughout the Caribbean. In Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada, a part of the tradition involves smearing paint, mud, or oil on the bodies of participants known as jab-jabs. In other countries, Jouvert is celebrated on the first day of August, Emancipation Day, and yet for other West Indian countries, Jouvert is observed the night before the daytime Pretty Mass Parade. Pretty Mass, a bright and festive version of the celebration, features colorful feathers and beaded costumes and is more popular and commercially publicized. Jouvert values the transgressive dirt, while Pretty Mas celebrates the transcendent glitter. Jouvert can further be contrasted with Pretty Mas, such that Jouvert is said to be for the people, while Pretty Mas is intended for the establishment. So in popular culture, Jouvert is the title of the 10th track of Brockhampton's fourth studio album, Iridescent or whatever. All right. So as you guys can see, you can check out more information here on this website, and you can go where it says see also Trinidad Carnival, Caribbean Carnival, list of festivals in North America, and references is right here at the bottom. So you'll find all type of reference on this page regarding to Jouvert. All right, so that's that information. All right, hey, peace, Centavo. How you doing? I appreciate you coming through. Thank you, brother. I really do. I appreciate that. All right, so I want to talk real brief before I go into another source. Now, this again, this is where it creates the problems between blacks and Black Americans or African Americans, and also the Caribbeans, right? Now, I understand the position that the people in the Caribbean are taking as far as the festival is concerned, the name, because the name does carry an origin. There's a reason why they celebrate, because they celebrate the emancipation of slavery in the Caribbeans, especially in Trinidad, and that's something that's very sacred to them. You know what I'm saying? So on that aspect, they feel like nobody should be able to profit off of that particular name, because of the sacred origin that it carries. You know what I'm saying? Especially somebody that's not from the Caribbean. And I also see that Michael B. Jordan was trying to come up with something clever, something that would be more appealing to the masses, to be able for him to be able to market his brand. But what I don't understand is, I don't understand the whole animosity. There shouldn't be no animosity behind African Americans and those who are black that comes from the Caribbean. There shouldn't be no animosity behind that. You know what I'm saying? And see, what I know is people from the ADOS movement, especially, they take this incident and they run away with it. They run away with this. You know what I'm saying? So they use this as a way to, how can I say, to bring about the propaganda, to create the dichotomy or keep the dichotomy going. Okay? As if the Caribbean people have some form of hatred towards African American. And that's not the case. Because how can we really hate each other? You know what I'm saying? If we really hate each other, then we hate our origin. You know what I mean? So it just, to me, it's gone a little too far with this whole dichotomy thing, which is why I really stay far away from picking a side. I stay far away from the ADOS argument, the FBA argument, even the Pan-Africanism. I mean, I love Pan-Africanism, but, again, it has become the point where now it sounds like you gang banging, and ain't no gang banging thing over here. You know what I'm saying? If we really, this goes to show how people don't really know enough about their history, and they're not well studious. If you really study history and origin, especially when it was regarding to slavery, it goes a lot deeper than what you really think it is. We wouldn't be in this predicament where we are at competition or at odds with each other. If we really understood our origins, if we realized that what we got in common, and the question is always being brought up, what is Pan-Africanism? Okay, let's look at the word pan. Break down the word pan. Pan means all. Africanism deals with shared cultural struggles, not only just cultural identity, but also ethnic background, shared origins, regard to the transatlantic slave trade, and not just a transatlantic slave trade, but also regarding to being African descendant. All right. We share a lot of things in common with those who are Caribbean. All right. Because what we have in common is our African origins. Okay. And then if we look at our ancestors, when they was brought here into North America as slaves, they were brought in. They did not just come directly from Africa. Some came directly from the Caribbean islands, okay, and from South America, and they were imported over here to America to do the work. So again, if you guys have not taken your DNA test, I would advise y'all to do so, because it helps you to understand history a lot better. Because what you may find out, for many of us, we'll find out that we have some ancestors that's in the Caribbean. Why is that? Because of what took place during the transatlantic slave trade. That's why. If we able to go back to the origin, we would have a better understanding. There wouldn't be so much dichotomy. Now, is there cultural differences? Yes, because of the climate, because of the continents that we live on, the landmass. That's why there's cultural differences. And it's not just solely because of, our African identity, but it's because of how we've been colonized and the people that have oppressed us. So we have taken on their cultural aspect and concept and infused our African identity along with it. So just like with those in Trinidad that has been enslaved by the, I don't know, I think they was enslaved by the French. I believe it was the French or the British. They have taken on the concept of those people, their culture, and infuse their African identity to it. Okay. Same way with the Haitian people. They took on the French culture and they added on African tradition with it. It's so many others. So because of different land masses and the climate and the environment that we in, it creates some different cultural differences. So you have some subcultures there. Even here in the United States, when you go to various parts of the United States, you will see cultural differences, right? If you go to the northern part of the United States, there is some differences there. There's some things they do in the north that we don't do in the south. And there's some things in the south that they don't typically do up there in the north. Same way in the West Coast. There's some things that goes on in the West Coast that's totally different from how it is done here in the South or in the North or in the Midwest. But at the end of the day, we should be able to create a foundation as a people. You know what I'm saying? So this is why I do follow along with the Pan-African ideology, but people try to take that and not really understand the context of it. See, here's the thing. That's why I appreciate the ancestors like W.E.B. Du Bois, Martin Delany, Alexander Crummell, even hearing Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, who else? Henry William Sylvester's, all of them. I appreciate what they have done because they had the right, even Marcus Garvey, they had the right idea. Okay. Now they did not articulate it in the way it is today, but they had the right idea. The idea was they understood that we all share a commonality. They understood that. You know what I'm saying? So they understood the connection. We have that commonality. And what we got is the African origin, Central West Africa. That's our commonality right there. Our Central West African ethnic background. And if you was to take that away, you wouldn't have groups like, you wouldn't have a Jamaican, you wouldn't have a Bahamian, you wouldn't even have an African American, you wouldn't have no ADOS, you wouldn't have no FBA if there was no African origin involved in that. There wouldn't be no reason. So to sit here, even Dr. John Henry Clark says this, and I'm glad that he made this statement. He said, if you do not bring Africa in focus in the relationship to African people of the world, you are out of order. You are out of order. You might as well talk about a child without talking about his mother and father. That was Dr. John Henry Clark's statement. If you do not bring African history, not just transatlantic slave trade, but also African history to the Black people of the world, no, regardless where you are in the world, whether it be in the United States, North America, Canada, Latin, the Caribbeans. And what people don't know is the Caribbeans is part of North America. technically speaking. South America, even Australia, or if you're in Great Britain. It don't matter where you are, or even if you're in the Middle East somewhere. If you do not bring the focus of African history to the Black people, you're out of order. So if you try to erase African history or the transatlantic slave trade, which is dealing with African history, if you try to get that out the picture and just want to focus on little parts of it, then you're not telling the whole story. It's disingenuous. But I will say, as a people, we got to start respecting each other, right? Just like Black people need to respect those who come from the continent and the Caribbeans, the Caribbean people and the people from the continent must also respect Black people. We must be able to respect each other. You know what I'm saying? And we must be able to learn how to properly communicate with one another. You know, we can't walk around here with the nose stuck up in the air like we the shit. And especially ADOS, you ain't got no place to be talking about who can't do what and who can't go nowhere. You ain't got that kind of control. You don't have that systemic power in this country. You really don't. If you ain't gonna stick your nose up at the Asian community and the Arab community, the Jewish community, then how you gonna stick your nose up at the Caribbeans and African people? You can't stick your nose up at them. You ain't stuck your nose up at the Jewish community. You ain't protest against them for coming in and doing businesses. You ain't stick your nose up at the Italian people or the Asians. You ain't sticking your nose up at the Arabs, and the Arabs coming there with the liquor stores and all of that shit. Y'all not doing that. So I just, but you're instead of going back and forth with the Caribbean people and African people, right? And they're not the ones that's creating the problems here in this country. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them come here for a reason. Yes, there are those who are very conniving. Yes, there are those who are very stuck up. Yes, but you got plenty of Black folks that's real stuck up. And that's conniving, low down, and dirty. That's our people. So you got some of our people that's like that, and you got those of our people that aren't in that same boat. But because we have this narrow mindset here in America, we try to create a division, which brings more division and create more division and create more division and create more division. And now you wonder why there is nothing set in place for Black people, why Black people are not progressing, because you're constantly creating division after division after division after division. What good is that gonna do? So now it's gonna turn to a game banging situation. It's gonna turn into a turf war. It's gonna turn to the Crips and the Blood, the Vice Lord, and the GDs type thing. That's what it's turning into. Because it's more division, more division, more division. Instead of people coming down and sitting at the table and saying, okay, forget our differences. We need to focus on commonality. And I truly believe that if we were able to work together with people who are of with the continental Africans and those in the Caribbean, I think that we would have a stronger economic as a people collectively. I think it will build our economy, you know, our Black economy. I think that it will build us up politically if we was able to come together, focus on the commonality, focus on what we need to work on. Nobody's taking away your reparation, okay? For one, and I'm going to keep it real with you guys. You're not going to get reparation anytime soon. That's the reality. As much as we want reparation, it ain't going to happen anytime soon. It ain't finna happen. Now while Biden's in damn office, it ain't finna happen anytime soon. We've been fighting for this for the longest. Our people been fighting for it for the longest. And the people that did put out reparation claims, HR 40 bill, was those of the Pan-African background. And these people were part of the Republic of New Africa. They linked up with John Conyers, who was the House Representative from Detroit, to get this bill pushed out, which he did, and he was able to do so. So the bill is still sitting on the table. But how many Black people, especially those in the ADOS movement, is really taking the initiative and confronting this? How many people are going to these conferences they had over the past 2 years regard to the HR 40 bill and putting out their problems? How many have done that in the ADOS movement? Not very many. I didn't see Yvette Carnell. I didn't see Antonio Moore. I definitely didn't see Tariq Nasheed there. They had the opportunity. They had the opportunity to get their voices heard. They had the opportunity to say something. I didn't see them. I didn't see them writing Representative Sheila Jackson Lee and telling her how they felt. Why didn't nobody attend? Danny Glover went. I mean, he's an actor, but Danny Glover went. Tahisi Coates was there. And of course, you had the pastor that was a coon that was there. Then you had another coon that was there. Then, of course, you had the economist. She was there. My thing is, why don't you take the initiative? Go to the White House. Voice your concern. Again, ain't nobody trying to take away nobody's right to get no reparation in this country. And when our ancestor, as a matter of fact, when we look at the history about HBCUs, most of them were started by Europeans for African descended people. When they started these HBCUs, they didn't say that, see, with the African descended people, it's just going to be just for those who are just typically Americans and nobody else. No, they started school for African descended people. And then when our people started it, right, like Lane College, for example, they didn't have that mindset that, we just going to just deal with Black people here in America and no other Black person from any other country can't come to these HBCUs. They didn't have that mindset. They didn't have that mindset. They didn't have that kind of mentality. But again, we create this dichotomy. It just don't make no sense. I mean, you ain't doing nothing that ain't gonna make it no better. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna create more division. And it's gonna be a whole total chaos. All right. But let me see. That's right, sis. We should, as people, African descent, be able to blend similarly and also move in and out of each other's respective cultures throughout the world. It's all African based. That's right. It is. That's it. It's all African based. If more African Americans did their DNA, I'm sure that most of us would be related somehow, some way, considering how they moved enslaved Africans all over the world and mixed tribes on purpose. Yep. Yep, and then you had some African Americans who immigrated. That's another thing. African Americans had immigrated to these places as well. Not just Africa, but also to the Caribbeans. They went to Haiti. They went to the area which is called Somalia Province, which is northeast of the Dominican Republic. They were the Trinidad, the Moroccans. Then also you had the Maroons that escaped from South Carolina, Virginia area, passed through Florida, went over to places like Jamaica and Mexico. I mean, if we really knew our history, if we knew that aspect, we wouldn't be sitting up here arguing today. We create adults with our Pan-African discussion and talking about renaming ourselves as African of the diaspora. But just like everything else, the idea gets misused and perverted for money. Yes, it does. It does get misused and perverted for money. But at the end of the day, you know, I mean, you can sit here and rename what you want. You can call yourself what you want. So you can say you foundational Black America, American descendant of slaves, or freemen. Now that's another one, freemen. And the freemen people, they were African descendant slaves who were freed from those who were Native American. Yeah, they had Native Americans who were slave owners and Europeans. So you can sit there, you can change all that, but that's not going to change your DNA. That's not going to change the origin of history. You are what you are. It is what it is. And you got to learn how to accept that. To me, it comes from a state of self-hate and don't want to be associated with African identity. And that's the way I see it. But anyways, let me go ahead and get to the next one, and then I'll be closing out. Okay. And it says, how can you exclude anyone of African descent? That's crazy to me. American Africans aren't the only descendant of slaves. Exactly. Key point, case in point. They're not. We all, if you want to be technical, we all are American descendant of slaves. Whether you be in the Caribbean, in Central America, / Latin America, South America, or Canada, we all are American descendant of slavery. We all are. I mean, what more do you want? Slavery was not just a United States business. It was international. It was an international business. It happened throughout the Americas, from North America all the way down to South America. Okay, that was an international business. It was an international profit. So they was all in cohesive with each other. I mean, anyways, let me get back to this article real fast. So here's another article right here. Okay. As you can see, this article is called Jouvert Speaks to the Present. A kinesthetic journey through moments in African and Caribbean history by Wadi Sharif at and they got an EDM at Temple University, MS, which is Master of Science in Organizational Psychology, Baruch College, City University of New York. All right, so right here, as you can see, I'm gonna look at the introduction. Okay, let's just go into the introduction. It says, "Your lost sons send you greetings, Mother Africa, from the West Indies to Bermuda, and Bermuda to the United States. They sigh after you." Let me read that again. "Your lost sons send you greetings, Mother Africa, from the West Indies to Bermuda, and Bermuda to the United States, they sigh after you. According to Sloat, the world is moving to Caribbean beats. Rhythms derived from Africa return to her and become newly Africanized rumbas and reggaes. Many choreographers have been known to incorporate the hip sway known as whining and other indigenous Caribbean dance forms to add a bit of sensuality to their work. Despite the widespread popularity of these dance forms, which are mostly folk, social, and ritualized in nature, very little is known about the complexity culture from which these dances emerged. According to Hall, and this is the source that was used, colonization is not satisfied merely with holding a people in its grip and emptying the native brain of all form of content. It turns to the past of oppressed people and distorts, disfigure, and destroy it. Therefore, the cultural identity of the Caribbean, like other diasporic cultures, became product of forced migration. The cultural dances are the direct result of European colonization of the Caribbean and the influence brought over by the enslaved Africans and East Indians. Okay. It says, the marriage of cultures produced many blended dances on these islands. While these dances represent some form of identity, belonging, and nationality, belonging and national history one can hardly explore the dances without first addressing how they came to be an unfortunate commodification of African slave history in the Caribbean. Jouvert is one such event that is rich with dances that evolve out of the slave experience in the Caribbean. This paper will focus on the experience of Jouvert and the dances that emerged in Trinidad and Tobago with some comparative references to other Caribbean islands. All right, then it goes on to talk about the effects of colonization on Caribbean cultural identity. So it says European colonization of the Caribbean has disrupted the ancestral connections of an entire people and therefore makes an event like Jouvert vital in rediscovering that connection. Slavery and colonization have robbed people of the African diaspora of their cultural identification and forced them to clinch to newly formed nation states that hardly represent or truly allow for an African-centered nationalism. Many of the Caribbean countries are still heavily influenced by British rule. By discussing the historical journey to Jouvert and identifying some of the traditional masks and Caribbean dances that emerged from the processional street theater, the celebration of Jouvert can be used as a tool to kinesthetically re-educate descendants of the African diaspora and educate other students against the myths and inconsistent stories often told about African people. All right. And it says, this struggle and the effects of colonization caused two challenges for Caribbean people. First, they had to accept that being Caribbean means being a part of a transnational family. Second, their cultural identification, which links them to be the nation, has been superimposed by an external force. Therefore, Caribbean people and arguably all people of African descent continue to be a people of lost heritage. The nation state becomes their only form of belonging, even when it cannot represent all aspects of African culture. Rootedness is therefore mandatory if one is to come to terms with the histories, epistemologies, and attitude engineered to make one feel a stranger in one's own home. And then it goes on to say, to be a Caribbean and part of transnational family is to be mix of heritage, African, European, and Indian. According to Rahim, each Caribbean nation remains a legitimate space and context for identification without severing its connection to a wider concept of home. She also states that there is no doubt that Caribbean thematic and aesthetic practices rest solely on the faith that Caribbeanness embraces both the nation within and beyond borders. She accurately captures the realities of Caribbean identification to the nation state while addressing the deep rooted problems in having to maintain such connections as being a direct cause of European imperialism. European imperialism left in its wake a long trail of abuses in the name of a civilizing agenda bent on homogenizing the human race in accordance with its ethnocentric and nationalist terms. Perhaps there is a real case for abandoning them. All right, so as you can see, this is the article. If you guys want to check it out, it's called Jouvert Speaks to the Present, a kinesthetic journey through moments in African Caribbean history by Wadi Sharif. Okay. And it was in 2014 in the Journal of Emerging Dance Scholarship. All right. So, yeah, with that being said, it's very important that we all, be careful how we marginalize things and people and not really get a thorough understanding of how our origin, how people's origin take place and what brought about the present condition. This is why we need to study the past. And as the article mentioned, that basically the European, brought in their ethnocentric and nationalism, in which the Caribbean people were forced to embrace that in the Indian and you know what I'm saying? And so it left them with no choice to like really embrace that part of the nation, of course, and they were able to infuse African concept, but they took on what their oppressor had left over for them. Just like how we took on what our oppressor did to us here in the United States. It's amazing. I mean, I would say that the Europeans have done a great deal of work on us during slavery. They have really conditioned us because we still carry on the pathology. Just because you're free physically doesn't mean you're free mentally. We're not free mentally. We're still stuck. We're still a byproduct of this culture. Shout out to Fizz. Shout out to Fizz. What's up, brother? Anyways, we are still a byproduct of this culture, man. It's like we've been socially engineered. We have been social, and we're trying to really connect those dots and redefine ourselves and find our culture and find our roots and get back to it. But the reality is you can get back to the roots, but you can't do exactly what your ancestors have done. Because the land which your ancestors came from, they too, the people there, they too had to face the colonization of the foreigners. They too had to face being misplaced, and they have taken on religion ideologies. So there's a lot of conflicts going on there. I mean, there are those who still keep up with their indigenous practice. I mean, but overall, I mean, colonization had took a toll on all of us. Like, we have been greatly affected. So we still live with this pathology. And it's a permanent damage. It's a damage control. It's a damage control. Now, we can sit here and say that our ancestors played a part in that as far as selling us into slavery. Yes, they do. They play a part in it, a major part. But then guess what? They end up getting sold into slavery themselves. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but the thing is, we have to realize that we are conditioned. We have been created. We have been branded. So damage control is real. Damage control is real. And we are in the questioning of, well, dang, where do we fit? How do we fit in? How do we blend in? And especially by us knowing that we have different multiple tribal mix. It's like, okay, so we got all these tribes in us. We got the Yoruba, the Igbo, the Fon, the Mendikas, the Fula, all of these different tribes. We're mixed with those people. The Akans. So we're trying to find out, well, okay, so what tribe do we choose from? Because at one point in time, these tribes didn't get along with each other. These tribes was like at odds with each other. You know what I'm saying? Even, especially the Fulani, you know, they were at odds. So it's like, well, where do we fit in with those tribes? What tribes do we pick from? You know what I'm saying? But you really can't pick from them because you have to embrace all of it, because all of that is you. You got this portion of this tribe in you, that portion of that tribe, and that portion over here, and that portion over there. So you blending in. I mean, you know, it's very unique. But again, the main purpose was to continue with the with the slave factory. That's why so many of us was breeded the way we were breeded. Or so many of our ancestors was breeded a certain way, because it was to continue with the slave factory. It wasn't about giving blacks the freedom to be free again and be humans and have human rights. It wasn't about that. Unfortunately, the pressure got on to this government to where they had no choice to say, okay, we're just going to let these people go free. We don't need them anymore. We'll just, it's whatever. You know what I'm saying? The pressure was on, but other than that, they didn't have intention on letting us free. We was their commodity. We was their money-making machine. We was the one that kept the economy going. We was the one that kept putting the pockets into this government, into this system. They weren't trying to let our people free. If our people weren't earning freedom then, we will still be on plantations to this day. We will be on the plantations. We will still be picking cotton. I'm just saying. We'll be out there on the tobacco field. Have they not let our ancestors be free, we will still be on the fields today. But it took a lot of fight and it took a lot of pressure that was added on to this government to say, all right, we're going to let them go. We're going to give them their right, but this is how it's going to be. This is the consequences. And man, don't get me started with the whole ghettos and projects. That's going to be a whole different topic. Because once we get into that discussion about the ghettos, the projects, the hoods, and how we come into where we are today, that's when it gets really deep. That's when you got to really expose everything. But I tell you this, the ghetto was to bring about isolation to black people. I'll tell you that. That's all I'm gonna say. It was to bring isolation. It was to say oh, you cannot live in this society. You cannot blend in because you're a minority. So by you being a minority, you're placed under isolation. You have to be over here where the minorities are at. We don't want you over here with the majorities. We don't want you with the benefits. So that was like a punishment to our ancestors for slavery. That was our ancestor punishment for fighting for freedom, for emancipation. So that was the government way of saying, all right, we're punishing you because you done fucked up our economics, though. You know what I'm saying? You caused us to force you into being free. So now you want your freedom, but okay, you got your freedom, but you won't be staying over here. You won't go over there. You won't be working here. You got to stay your behind right here. It's a conditioning process. It's a conditioning process, man. I mean, but anyhow, I'll be here all day talking about this. So I'm just going to leave it off. I may do a video later on today. Let's just see how things go. Hopefully, I'll be able to do it. But anyways, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you take it easy on yourself. Thank you for those who's been watching. Thank you for those who has been coming in. Let's see. There would have been a whole bunch of revolts in history. And believe it or not, it was a lot of revolts in our history. It was a lot of slave revolts. It was a lot of slave revolts. We freed ourselves. That's why we're punished as African Americans. Exactly. I mean, yeah, we were fighting for freedom. We fought for emancipation. And we got the crumbs. But thank you, though, Centavo. Thank you for tuning in, Centavo. And thank you, Fizz1, for coming in. I appreciate that. And thank you guys who have been watching. I mean, if we were still slaves, there would be a lot more revolts. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, it would. It would be a whole lot. It would be a lot of that. But all right, thank you so much. I appreciate that sometime. I really do. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you being here and support and checking out the channel. Again, if you guys want to support me and what I'm doing, check out my Cash App at the bottom of the screen, which is $Tip World. So if you want to send something to my Cash App, that would be great. But until then, you guys take it easy on yourself. Please be safe during this pandemic. Yeah. So I'm hearing there's another strain of pandemic, or not pandemic, another strain of COVID going on. I'm not sure. That's why I heard there's another strain out there. So, but if it is, please be careful. Please be safe. And shout out to the people that got vaccinated. Shout out to you guys. For those of you that have not got vaccinated, you have that right to make that choice, but still, please be cautious out here. Please don't think that is a joke, because what's it called? Delta variant. Wow. Yeah, please be very cautious out here. Like, be careful. So, but other than that, so am I. I'm vaccinated too, Centavo. I am. I'm vaccinated. I'm very proud. I'm happy about that. So I encourage people to take the vaccine. I encourage people to do their research about the vaccine as well. So, but if you guys choose not to, then that's your business. You're right. Wear your mask. Exactly. Wear your mask. If you required to wear a mask, please just wear your mask. Like, don't give it no big problems. Just wear your mask, because it's serious out here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, although more people get vaccinated, but still wear your mask. All right. But anyways, let me go ahead and get off of here. Y'all take it easy. Y'all play it safe. And I'll connect with y'all later. All right. So make sure you check out the channel, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, share this video with whoever, and I'll talk to you guys later. All right. Peace.